Everyone, thanks for coming out to this special meeting to meet with the Planning Commission. Thank you to the Planning Commission for coming and meeting with us. And we will go ahead and I will call this meeting to order. And then I will also do the roll call of council. Ms. Zorb?
Here.
Ms. Gaston?
Here.
Ms. Chichester?
Here.
Ms. Alexander?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Present.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Underwood?
Here.
All present and accounted for. Council, you have tonight's agenda in front of you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gaston?
I second.
Motion to accept tonight's agenda as accepted by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Gaston. Any discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Zorb?
Yes.
Ms. Gaston?
Yes.
Ms. Chichester?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
That motion passes 7-0. So there is only one item on the agenda tonight. It simply says Planning Commission. So I believe we can turn it over to the Planning Commission, however you would like to proceed. We did just allow an hour for tonight, and if we need to get back together, we'll reconvene at another time. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So can we move that one microphone?
Which one?
The one on the end that Christian's not using tonight? How far will that go? Will it come all the way up here? Okay.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming out. We thought it might be beneficial for everyone to get together and talk about these recommendations that you have and answer any questions. But before that, I want to introduce the other members of the Planning Commission that are here. Andrea Brooks, my good cousin, Chuck Heert, and Robert Hall Jr. And we are very fortunate to have been selected by the mayor to be Planning Commission. One question right off the bat. Does everyone here know what we do and what our role is in the city government? I know you do.
Ask now if you're not sure.
Well, if not, I'm going to, if you don't mind,
Go ahead, Mr.
2-minute
Brooks.
tutorial. Okay, we're Planning Commission. I think, okay, on that pretty much summarizes in bullet points, but I'm not going to go through that whole list. But encapsulating that, our role is an advisory role. We have absolutely no legal, we don't make laws. These are all things that came up either via citizens or in our own little fertile minds. Our job is to assist the city in planning for the future. If you want to call us the dream team, that's us. You know, unfortunately, for the most part, we don't worry about money. We don't worry about the legal part. We worry about what's going to happen 50 years from now, and who's going to be here, and what are they going to have, and how our children and grandchildren, what are we going to leave them? My planning professor at Miami University said, if you don't plan at least 100 years out, you're shortchanging yourself. That's what we do. So the recommendations that we sent over to you, well, any questions on that? We have no legal authority, is what I'm saying. You're it. But now I can't, because, you know, I'm a little biased about being a mayor, I must remind you all that you have no administrative authority either. You guys pass laws. You guys spend money. She can't spend a dime without you. Or you can't go talking to somebody, talking about somebody and going around, okay? And that gets into the problem with planning. I know it sounds crazy, but that's why some of these recommendations about like things like property maintenance issues and officers and court systems, that was a little bit of a stretch, okay? Not that we shouldn't think about it, because that comes up in our discussions. Remember, we're the dream team. We just sit there and go crazy once in a while. But the recommendations we're going to bring to you tonight, we've prioritized them, and we feel very, very strongly about these 4. So I've prioritized them. Do you all have a copy of the recommendations? Yes. Okay. Okay. Do you have a copy of the letter that we mailed to or sent to you on March 13th of 2024?
Yes, that's what I.
Great, thank you. Well, on there, the reason I bring that up is that the very first one there, we recommend adoption of the Northcott Show Comprehensive Plan is our first number 1 priority that we strongly, strongly recommend. And that's actually, that was the catalyst for why we asked for a meeting, because we wanted, for any questions you all might have about the master plan, how it works, what it is, what the document is, and where should we go from here. Now, I don't know what you paid for that, but I think I said once before, council, you got 100,000 or whatever, a document sitting in a closet, and that's going to do you no good sitting in a closet. So I'm just going to ask, does everybody understand what the meaning and the power and the direction and what you do with it, a master plan, a comprehensive master plan? I mean, now there is no bad question.
Mr. President.
Ms. Alexander?
Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
I'm just going to be 100% transparent. When I read it, it was very overwhelming.
It is.
So I'm glad that you're here to just do some bullet points, because it was a lot. You know, I went through it and I was like, oh my God, well, this has to go this way first and that has to do, connect the dots here.
Sure.
And it was a lot.
I do it for a living. It wasn't a lot. Yes, it was. So the bullet points of this is it's called a comprehensive master plan. It's comprehensive because it pretty much takes on the whole city as an overview. It starts out, these things usually start out as looking at it from a 30,000 foot range, and then it tones in. The big thing is that this city doesn't belong to the people in this room. It belongs to everybody. And the point is that you get input for as much as you can, for as many people as you can.
Yep.
And then you start asking questions, simple questions like, what do you see wrong and what do you see right? And where do you think, Mr. and Mrs. Citizen, what do you think you want to have? What do you think? And I always ask the question of my clients, what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay. That question's got to be asked first. Because then you say, okay, if that's what you want to do, then okay, where are you in that picture right now? How and what's your position? Because if that's what you want to be, are you? Why are we a city? That's probably got, everybody in this room's probably got an opinion about that, but that's the question. So then all this information is gathered, all the data is gathered, historical data, current data, and future data. So you project out, and that's what this is. Now, this isn't carved in stone. That's the big thing about a master plan. Don't think that you've got to do everything in this book just the way it says because, this is what it says. This is our master plan. This is a working document. This is a live document. Things change. People change. Okay? Monies change. All that change. Opportunities change. What this does is put you in a position that when an opportunity occurs, you can react to it. Because you've already discussed it, you've already studied it. It may be a good idea, it may be a bad idea. there's things in here that, if you read that recommendation, we don't agree with. There were some things that we frankly felt were a little bit vague and lacking detail. But the good part of that is that gave us room as a city to say, hey, you know what? This is okay, but we don't necessarily like it. But it's an idea. Let's think about that, you know. And there's several examples of that here. But that's what it's supposed to be. That's what you need to do on a master plan. You look at the overall and just, you know, like, well, I'll take one concept out here, a city center. Now, some of you may think, oh, a city center, it's a building. No, not necessarily. A city center is a place where people gather. In Europe, it's called the town square, the village green. Go up east in the northeast and see how many of the small cities there actually design their towns around the village square. It's where people come naturally instead of being forced to go in a building somewhere and congregate, talk, communicate, gosh, what a concept, and talk to one another instead of at one another on Facebook. Those are the things that's in here. Those are good ideas. Where they are, I don't know. You know, but I've got ideas, not necessarily good and not necessarily bad. And you all have ideas. Again, going back to Miami, I know our design professor said, well, if you want to congregate people in the middle of a desert, put a stick up, because that's where they'll congregate, a stick. And they do. And that's just an example of what's in here. And there's lots of things, like I said, it's overwhelming to try to absorb all this. But we looked at it, we discussed it, we argued about it. And, you know, and so we came up and say, well, okay, we feel this is pretty good. You know, it's good. I mean, it's bought and paid for. And there's some ideas that have, and there's a lot of ideas that have valid things. But there are also some things that say, that reacts just the opposite, that acts as a catalyst, I guess, to start us thinking about things. Oh, yeah, but what if this and what if that? And asking that question, all of a sudden you discover, well, maybe we can do this. That's what this is. So that's why we recommended it. And the fallout there is that without it, we've run into some people that we have talked to who come to the Planning Commission that I've learned from the meetings that came. So people come to the Planning Commission. They're hesitant to make any commitment to invest in or do anything in the city of North Cottage Hill because right now we don't know what we want to be when we grow up. And if you think people aren't paying attention to that, you're wrong. As an investor, as a business person, am not going to invest $2 and $3 million in a city when they can't even adopt a master plan. And we have had that told to us in person multiple times because we have been trying, you know, we have been talking, people have talked to us, everybody here, we're out there, you know. And as I invite everybody that's watching this or anybody that's here says, hey, you know, you represent North College Hill. Every citizen in the city represents the city. Look on the news. Don't you get upset when something happens at College Hill and they say, well, somebody got whatever in North College Hill. I said, wait a minute, Cedar Avenue is not in North College Hill. You know. So, and the fact that we got 3 postal zip codes, 3. That's really weird. Okay. That's just a little sore point with me. But we are North College Hill. And so that's why we highly recommend passage of this. And anybody else want to chime in on anything?
Please.
So on the form, Andrea Brooks, on the double-sided sheet that you have with kind of some notes, some bullet points about the role of Planning Commission. The rest of that document are just some notes, general notes about like some of the negative consequences that can occur if a city does not have an approved comprehensive plan. So, as Dan said, there's obviously motivation to approve the plan. And I will say, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but in general, thinking about this plan, like, let's say if you were doing a drawing and you're a kid, it's like a stick figure, right? The base, right? The arms, legs, the circle for the head. So even though the plan does have details in it, think of this as almost like the stick figure. You don't have to add the meat, bones, flesh from all the details. Those things will be voted on and discussed and decided along the way. But the base, the stick figure is complete already. And so when it comes to approving it, again, none of it's written in stone. You're just approving the fact that we have this document, we've paid for it, we've got this input. It doesn't talk about prioritization, order, details, where money, location, where money's coming from, et cetera. So I just wanted to say that it's really that simple. But overwhelming, I understand. Most definitely, it's a lot to read. The importance of approval isn't attached to every detail of this.
While we're on, does anybody have any other questions about this, about the master plan? Nope. Only a few thousand? Okay. No problem. I got a question. I'm assuming that the small house legislation went through. Did that pass? I think it did. Did it not? The 1,500 square feet thing? Livable space? No? Yes?
I can't remember.
I'm sorry, can you have to repeat that question? I didn't hear it clear. What did he
The
say?
small house plan, livable,
The small house
1,500 square
ordinance.
feet, livable space.
Not in my mind.
I do remember, Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I do recall that legislation. I don't recall whether it passed or not.
Okay.
Mr. President,
But it was brought up.
I'd be happy to follow up and look and get back.
Well, the reason I'm asking, it's actually a compliment, because, you know, this council, this was on the books since 2017, this question, and y'all passed it. And so this is an example of, you know, the process, getting it done, and moving on. Again, if you don't agree with it, that's fine. We are recommending. That's it. Okay. Okay. I was just curious, because as an example of how the process. Okay. Okay. The second one, we decided amongst ourselves that we'll give you an easy one next, the recommendation. That's to compose and send a right of first refusal request to St. Margaret Mary's. We added the Beach Knoll Property, Clover Nook Center, and Clover Nook Country Club, knowing that those last three are probably not going to move very quickly, if at all, ever. However, unless you live in a cave, you're aware of what's going on in the Archdiocese and what's going on with potentially St. Margaret Mary. There's the Beacon of Lights program that the Archdiocese have, and they're looking at all parishes. And as of, actually, this past weekend, on March 22nd, 23rd, there's going to be a survey, what's called Survey Weekend, and that the people of the parishes are supposed to fill out these surveys and hand it back to their team in each family of parishes, and then they will make a decision who's going to be open and who's not. So that's how soon this is in the. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
I think that's only going to be in the St. Bernard's parish.
No. Assumption's got it too. Of course, that's the same family.
It's the same family.
Okay.
I think that's a specific family. But
Okay.
you're right, in general.
The process is.
There's a very specific process going on to look at what they can
Yeah.
do to
Yeah.
reduce reduce the number of churches to deal with the number of priests that are there.
Now, that's a legal matter, but again, it's a recommendation that we feel like we say in our reasoning, is that these are, these are very, very significant parcels of land that would affect North College Hill directly and impact it greatly, both negative and positive, potentially. So we'd like you to really consider that, and I think, Brandon, I think when you called me the other day and asked some questions about this, so I get the feeling it's in the process, but the timing is starting to get a little bit critical. Not that the city's going to have the money to buy it, but we just want a chance. You know, give us a shot.
First chance.
A first chance. Yeah, before you sell it to anybody else, talk to us. Don't look for a check for me, but anyway, no. Any questions on that?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
Mr. Brooks, I did check with
Archdiocese?
Mr. Dieters today
Yeah. Oh,
on the
good.
status of that. He
Oh, good.
said he's actually waiting on you to call him.
He is?
That's what he said.
You ought to call me and ask that then. Okay, I'll call him.
Bless you.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. If he's waiting for a text message, he's not going to get it. Okay. Third recommendation. And this really is it's kind of an outgrowth of the master plan, because again, without a master plan, the master plan tells you where you want to go and how you want. The other things, the next thing coming up is the zoning book and the zoning code itself. And that is passed by you all because it's a piece of legislation, it's a law. Okay. But before we get there have been, and I'm sure you're all aware, several things come before, not planning commission, but the building department, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and just, talk on the street in general about potential things that's going to be coming in here. Well, they may or may not be what we want or what is called out to be in the code. Well, we talked about this at length, and that's why we came up with what we think is the third on priorities, to create a temporary moratorium on any and all commencement of new construction and or development until the zoning code is reviewed and revised. Now, that could be a step. That could be a serious step. What we're saying is shut down everything that wants to come in here until we decide what they're going to do, and if it's approved, if we approve of it via zoning. That doesn't affect anything or anybody that already has a project underway, that is already in the pipeline for any kind of approval, whether it be through Planning Commission or Board of Zoning Appeals or anybody else, or planning or the building department. What it means is if somebody comes in here and wants to do a new building or a new development or a new use, no, until we get our zoning code straightened out.
Mr. President?
Now, on that list, on that sheet that Andrea pointed out, if you want to notice, one of the things that is under there is the uncoordinated and inefficient development. And then and the economic uncertainty and investment risks, not to mention possible legal actions.
I believe Ms. Zorb has a question, sir.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I know I've attended a couple of your planning commission meetings, and I know I've heard Ms. Brooks talk about she was trying to work with somebody from Hamilton County to get, I didn't know if we had an update on that. And I guess ultimately where I'm going is the word temporary. Like, how do we, if we were to put this into legislation, like, what time parameter is temporary?
Good question. I don't have an answer.
Okay.
A quick update about that. I spoke with, gosh, I can't remember Chris's last name at Hamilton County. And he told me to check back with him about our place in line, so to speak, for the end of March, early April. So that's when I will follow up again. Doesn't mean that we've been accepted. He just told me to follow up with him because the communities that they were wrapping up, they're still in that process. This, of course, was their first year. The wrapping up and wait for it has continued, but it's also been their first 2 communities that they've experienced the process with. So there's a little bit of ambiguity for folks. So I will keep you posted. I will reach out at the end of March with him and update council as I get updates.
Mr. President, may I have
Go ahead, Ms. Ward.
sorry, I know I attended the Planning Commission meeting, so I know what you're talking about. Do you care to kind of take a step back and explain to the rest of council what you're even talking about?
Sure. So Hamilton County, I think it's a zoning board, planning commission, zoning board. They have something that they call their new model zoning code. And their program, so it was a new program. It was designed to work with communities who had 40, 50 plus year outdated zoning codes, right? And it was kind of walking communities through and supporting them through the changes and addressing new things to help bring them up to current day issues, for example, Airbnbs or food trucks. So things that communities are currently dealing with. And hopefully, one, it was a free service, so that was always a benefit. They would work with us free of charge. But yeah, to walk through, when I say us, I mean the city. So not planning commission. Of course, we would work with them, but ultimately they would take buy-in from the city and like building inspectors, code inspectors, things like that. So that, and I'm happy to, actually, if you just Google it, model zoning code, Hamilton County. There's like a one-pager. I can't remember who all I sent that out to before, but if you're interested, let me know, and I can email that one-pager to you that talks about their service.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I had a question.
Ms.
So,
Chichester?
just for clarification,
Yeah.
you said they have not yet got back with you to work with you on that, or
They-
do?
No. We've been in communication as they're wrapping up. I think it was Fairmount and North Bend were the communities they were working with. And because of the staff that they had, they only had the capacity to work with a certain amount of communities at one time. So they can't give us a go date or where we fall in the pipeline. Like he hasn't said, Andrew, you guys are number 2.
Right.
He hasn't said anything like that, but I feel like I've kind of been like a little gnat. Like, I hope I'm not a bugaboo, but I'm checking in. We're really interested. The city's on board. We want to support this. They want to support this process. So yeah, I usually ask him, when is it okay for me to follow up and see where you guys are in your process? And that's when he told me the end of March, early April, to check in with him and to see if they've closed out the other communities and completed those services with them.
Okay.
And Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
yes. Question. Now, would this be the same as the form-based code that we discussed beginning of okay, so this is a different zoning than. Okay.
Oh, good. 'Cause
A form-based code is a code. It's a different way of looking at code. A form-based code is a type of code. I think what the Hamilton County is saying, they have a model code. And of course, the one thing we need to find out is just exactly what services they offer us. It's just like everything, you buy those things that says one size fits all, and they don't fit anybody really good.
Right.
Well, I think we need to find out a little bit more, and I'm sure Andrea will have the gentleman come up and give us a tutorial on exactly what it is they offer us. And if it's good for us, then hey, that's going to help. If it's not, okay, we go on from there. But again, that's our recommendation, that we get a qualified person, and especially attorneys involved, that are familiar with zoning codes. That's the part I don't think they're going to offer us, but I don't know. But there's just a ton of potential legal pitfalls with our current code and any code. I mean, zoning is probably the most contentious piece of anything. Again, I'm a little biased because it's I deal with that, but you know, when there's lawsuits and things like that, I'm sure Ms. Underwood, you can testify to that. It's a lot of zoning. So, yes. Yeah, that's what I'm heading to. Yep, that's next. So, first one is a moratorium. I mean, number 3 is a moratorium, and the reason for that is that until we get the zoning code straightened out, we really shouldn't do anything. In an ideal world, you know, but again, we just recommend. So now the 4th one is the fact of actually getting someone to do and rewrite the code and review it, both from a planning standpoint and a legal standpoint. This doesn't happen in a couple months. You know, you're looking at over a year at least to review that code, because of the fact that not only does it have to be written, then it has to be reviewed. I mean, you know, and I'm not knocking anybody, don't get me wrong, but just the time to get to here. This was in July, this was sent to you, and this is the easy part. Council has a right to, an obligation to, look at it, discuss it, you know, put your 2 cents worth in, and then obviously have public meetings on it. So it takes time. So it's not like, don't expect this stuff to happen right away. Now, so are there any questions on that?
Yes. Mr. President.
Mr. Davis.
Okay. So when is the last time that the city's code has been looked at or updated?
2006, I believe we just discovered that tonight.
2006.
Well, that's the master plan. The code was, geez. I'm not sure, at least 10, 12 years ago, I would think.
Okay.
Do you know, Mayor? I think Maureen was mayor when it was done.
Which one?
The last code update. It wasn't a comprehensive code update, but it was.
I believe it was when Maureen was mayor. Was it her first or second
I think it was her first term. Well, her first year, yeah. Yeah. So that would be
So that would have been 2017, 18.
2014, maybe? 15?
I remember she came on as an, was it during
Right.
that time or was it after her election? Which one are you referring to? Because she finished her term.
It was, I know it was the second term, but it would have been 14, 15, about 17, 2017 maybe? 16, 17, somewhere in there. Whatever, it's about 10 years. But that wasn't a total rewrite at all. That was just, defining our density and our zoning, our residential zoning densities, basically.
And
If you
that was
notice,
when
we
they
didn't.
changed some, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
That's right.
Isn't that the year when they changed some of the zoning in certain areas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went from high density to medium density to low density, and that's all as far as residential zoning. And there were some other changes, but it wasn't the total complete zoning code. But yes, it was then. Does that answer your question enough on the form zoning?
Yes.
Form zoning is basically, zoning is cut and dry as far as, you can build this here, there, and you can't, or whatever.
Right.
Form zoning is when people get together and say, well, it's not based
Like-
necessarily on use, it's necessarily on what you want it to look like.
Right.
And then you say, well, we would want Goodman Avenue to be a mixed-use land with whatever fountains and stuff. And so that's what you're starting to see, a form-based, and that's a very, very broad generalization, but that's what it is.
Okay.
Ms. Alexander?
When you say density, the different levels of density, can
Yes.
you go into detail as to what exactly
Sure.
you're saying?
Well, like, in one zone, let's just say it's and these numbers, just high density, usually it's like so many units, living units per acre.
Okay.
So let's just say that a low density would be probably around 3-4 units per acre. Now, in some sections of Indian Hill, it's 1 unit per 5 acres, Harrison has the same thing, Harrison Township, and they have, big, when they have lots of land. Medium density, that would be somewhere around maybe 4 or 5 units, maybe 6. And then high density would be 12 per acre.
Okay.
And what you do there is, and that comes into play, is, okay, your condos, your apartments and stuff, they're high density, And then, of course, then there's the other thing, I'm going to really blow you out here, is a PUD. That was what was in the new zoning, Mayor. That was the big thing, was a PUD. We never had a PUD. A PUD stands for Planned Unit Development. And that is an overlay district, which means that, let's just say that somebody came in and said, I'm going to redo, I'll pick on Goodman Avenue, the Goodman Avenue thing here, right? Well, you got all these things over here. And it's zoned business, whatever, business B, okay, or whatever, doesn't matter at this point. They'd come in and say, well, we want to do this development. And the city says, we can accept this part of it, but not that part of it. You're going to have, we want some landscape. We want to downplay the parking. But the code may call for, in this particular zone, let's just say, more parking than really ever going to be used. Has anybody ever here has everybody seen the parking lot over at Rose's full?
No.
Nope.
Does anybody here remember that when Thriftway was over there? Right, okay. Had you ever seen it full then? Full? No, not full. The whole thing?
Not the whole
No,
thing, but a
no.
lot
The only
of
time I've ever seen it full is when we have our Memorial Day parades. That was it. But those are the things you sit down and you say, okay, we want more green space, or we want more residential space, or we want more pedestrian type stuff, that kind of stuff. Then it borders on form zoning. So you create this zoning overlay. It literally is an overlay. You take a piece of paper and you lay your project over there, and this is what and then you start defining the uses that are allowed in that overlay district.
Gotcha.
Okay, so those are the things that you could do, and that gets, it's pretty cut and dry, but it gets to be an interesting tool for the city to maintain control, because when somebody goes into that, makes those decisions, 10 years down the road, if they want to change it, you got to go start all over. And that entails a meeting with Planning Commission, a public meeting with Planning Commission, a public meeting with City Council, and you go through all that, but that process takes at least 6 months. At least. So that is a major deal, but in my opinion, the upside of that is the city has control over that forever. So, okay.
All right. And Mr. President.
Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Okay. So, and what are we supposed to say when somebody says that doing a moratorium on building says, okay, we're being hostile to business, we're being hostile to development, we're being hostile to progress, because that's where we're going.
Oh, sure. Somebody will say that. Yeah. Say, well, that's the way it is. We're serious about doing something good for our city. That's what I'd tell them. I mean, that sounds like a smart-ass answer, but that's what I tell them.
Mr. President?
Yeah. We're planning for the future. Go ahead.
Wanted to add something to that. So even that one pager, the page, and there's writing on the back that talks about some of the negative consequences. talks about some of the negative consequences if you don't have approved comprehensive plan.
Right.
So I feel like a moratorium is, it's almost, it's like a pause. It's not really stopping development. It's just saying, wait a minute, let's have more of a plan for our use. So instead of just coming in and filling in spots here and there, what was the point of getting or using or purchasing and developing a comprehensive plan if you're just going to willy-nilly make decisions as they come up? So I think it's just adding some order, right, and slowing down the process forgive me, instead of putting butts in seats, so to speak. Well, we need businesses, we need these houses, really, so that there's some fidelity to whatever process is prioritized, when it's prioritized within the comprehensive plan. Again, so there's order and process, not to stop, but just slow down. Let's make educated decisions. That's all.
Mr. President.
Ms. Chichester?
Ms. Brooks, my only concern with that would be if I'm a small business, I've hired a contractor to do some work this spring, and now the city comes back and say, hold up. Most small businesses won't be able to withstand that, or, they have a timeline in order to get a return on their investment with their investors, or, even their loans or things, they thinking they're going to be open by September, but we put a hold on things that could hurt a small business.
I think, and Dan's going to talk about it, but I think he mentioned earlier that it wouldn't apply to things where there's already something in the pipeline or already in the works. He had mentioned that.
I thought it said on here, on all commencement of new and/or development, that until the zoning code is revised.
Right.
Reviewed and revised.
Right. Correct. What that means is that if somebody comes, let's just say you pass a moratorium. And tomorrow morning, somebody comes in and wants to do something.
Okay, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we weren't
Yeah.
hurting someone already in progress.
No.
That's
We don't
that
touch
was
them.
my
No,
concern
no.
about them.
No, this is for new only. I mean, real new.
Okay.
Even if they've made contact with the building department or the zoning department or BZA or planning commissioner, whoever, if they made contact, that's in the pipeline. We don't touch that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good. I
And-
wanted to make sure
and,
we were
the-
clear on
Brandon, it was a good question, but that message will go out in about 10 minutes that North Kiteshill's serious about quality development. If you read that paper that we passed out, one of those things is the definition of zoning in itself. And that's an important thing to read. And approved comprehensive plan on based on where is it? The impact of growth, stability, and overall quality of life. That's what zoning does. That's all. And like anything, these are recommendations. We don't make the laws. You do. And we're there to talk about it. We're to discuss it. Like we're doing tonight. And so that's our goal. Now the other ones those are our four priorities. Now I held my promise to the city manager that there were four and we acted on pretty quickly. I think. What time is it? I don't know.
You have about 15 minutes, sir.
Oh well, shoot, we got time then.
Throw in another one.
Well, let me throw a fun thing at you. One thing that we discussed in Planning Commission. And for those of you who are watching on TV, I hope you like this idea. We're kicking around one time about our neighborhoods. Each neighborhood, each quadrant. This is kind of unique because we could easily divide ourselves into 4 quadrants. Instead of keep saying, well, it's the southwest or northwest or east, southeast, northeast, whatever. But you look at some of these new developments around and, in these newer areas, newer cities or communities or whatever, and they got names for each one of their, neighborhoods. So we thought, well, we've got some interesting things around here. And so, the southwest quadrant is the historical district. And we sign it, and we identify it. Because when you're coming through North Cottage Hill, you have a sign, welcome to North Cottage Hills Historical District. And the zoning then plays on that, because then you start having the laws like, if you remodel, if you cut down a tree, if you paint it a certain color, you got to go before planning commission, and or there's rules that you can or can't do in that historic district because it's a historic district, right? That's just ideas, and this was one of our little brainstorming sessions.
I like that.
The northwest quadrant used to be the Laboido Farm. So it's Laboido Farm, it's the Laboido Farm neighborhood. Southeast, the Wise Farm, because of Isaac Wise, right across the street, right here. Okay. And of course, in the, what was that, northeast quadrant, we thought, well, why don't we call that the Carey Farm neighborhood? Because the Carey family built Carey Cottage there in 1832. It's still there. And so now we have districts. We have neighborhoods. We have identifiable. Yeah, we got a little, you know. So that was just kind of, that was a fun thing that we came up with. But more than anything, you know, it's the people thing. And I'm going to throw a little plug here for a thing that's going on that we're kind of proud of. And Brandon, you named it, right? Motion NCH or Motion CH or yeah. I don't MOTIONCH. Right. So I want to do that. And it's
North College Hills is in motion. Long story less.
There you go. And if Chuck, you want to say anything about this, or you want me to try to funnel through it? Because this is Chuck's brainstorm. It's a subcommittee of we split ourselves up in subcommittees, and this is one of them. But it's moving along.
Well, the idea is connected to what's in the long-range plan about getting citizens of North College Hill invested and involved in this community. And when Dan asked me if I would be willing to join the Planning Commission, I said, yes, as long as we're clear that there's a commitment to engaging citizens in this process. And he said, fine, I'm in favor of that. And clearly it was a part of the plan. So we have made contact with an organization that calls itself the Common Good Alliance that had been doing this kind of work. Actually, the person that is heading it up is a guy named Peter Block, who has written several really interesting books about that and has been training some others. And they've agreed to work with us on developing this process. So we've now held 3 monthly meetings. We're going to have another one in March where we're introducing this methodology that they happen to refer to it as the 6 conversations that they're encouraging people to use. But what we're really going to be working towards is have citizens coming together, identifying issues that they really want to work on, that they can take responsibility for developing and improving in their community. We have gotten approval for a small grant of $3,500 to help support some of the limited costs with this that mostly will allow us, it'll pay a little bit of fee for the Common Good Alliance for the work that they're doing with us, but it also is going to help support a few of the first initiatives, up to $300 grants to help support some of the initiatives that citizens want to do. But our thought is to really build on this idea about possibly the neighborhoods developing their own associations. We're not quite sure where all this is going to go, and it's partly going to depend upon where the citizens want to take it and what kind of things are really important and what people feel that they are ready to take on here. But each of the sessions that we have had so far, people have left energized and said, yeah, I want to come back. I like this. This is feeling good. So we're moving ahead with this. We will have our next event on March 13th. We're meeting on the second Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock. We even agreed at the last meeting that we want to meet for an extra half hour because the hour and a half time wasn't enough. So we're going to agree to meet from 6 to 8 o'clock. I think, let's see, April, then we will be set, and then May, we're going to move it back to the third Thursday, simply for some other, partly because I'm going to be out of the country. But anyway, so if any of you are interested more, if you know some people that might be interested in joining them, encourage them to come join us on Thursday night. It's here in this building from 6 to 8. People that want to start learning how to be conveners and collectors of people in our community. We're going to keep building it. So we are quite excited and encouraged about this, and people are leaving quite energetic about this.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I have a question for Mr. Chuck. First, is there a reading material that you're kind of using as a guide from the model that you can recommend?
Yeah. We have actually several copies of it. I can. Actually, the city has printed up several copies for us. We printed them off for the Motion NCH members, but then we printed up some copies for some of the participants last month. So, yeah, actually, Ben has the master copy of it.
Okay, I'll reach out to Ben. I'm actually in asking as a citizen, but
Good.
So the thing that confuses me is that I know that, and I've heard like just through some of the rumblings, is that you have sectioned off in kind of like this is it based on quadrants or is it just based on areas? And if so, what do your sections represent, and how do you gain the momentum and continuity between the sections if you've sectioned off? That's just my kind of curiosity.
Our original thought was maybe we would do this quadrant by quadrant. But what happened was that when we had our very first meeting, people came from all the other quadrants too. And it caused us to rethink about this. And we decided, all right, let's approach this differently. Let's do this on a citywide basis right now. Let's start bringing in people that want to learn these skills and start developing the capacity to do this. And let's see what it evolves. It may well be that it will lead us, as the long-range plan proposes, of creating these neighborhood associations on the basis of quadrants. And as Dan said, we have this really interesting way in which we could do that. But I think that's going to be up for citizens of North College Hill to decide. That part is not in any way decided. It's a bias of mine. I think it makes some sense, but I'm really open to doing what people really want to create here. Yeah, Dan?
The practicality of it is, if it was very successful and you had a bunch of people show up from all the quadrants, it's difficult to control. And it seems like, based upon my experience, it seems like when you get a room over 20 or 30 or 40 people from all over, they've all got different needs or wants or desires. That was our assumption anyway. But we don't know until we ask the question. So, as Chuck said, that first meeting, we didn't have the hordes of people that we were hoping. But what we did find out is that other people from other quadrants were interested. We said, whoa, this might work with the do it all, you know? And so that was just a matter of, I guess, space. And it just seemed like we wanted to, this has been our maiden voyage here, the last 2 or 3 meetings, you know? We didn't know where it was going to go. So, but, you know, if it grows up and grows out, and so we want to get more of and the fact that those 4 quadrants they seem to have a unique, quality. You know, this, if you want to do it in halves, the southern half relates more to Cincinnati. I mean, seriously. And the northern half, divided by Galbraith Road, tends to go north. It looks north. And then, of course, you got Cross County Highway. And having lived in that quadrant, when that came through, that was a whole other series of concerns. You know, because I'd hate to tell you how many times I heard from the citizens down here, they care less about, why should we care about cross-county highways? It's not nice, you know. Well, I'm living right across the street. I was like, wow, wait a minute, you know. But I go back to St. Paul, and I'm not one to quote Bibles or anything, but I'll paraphrase the lesson about the body.
Being a whole.
If your toe hurts, your body hurts. If your eye hurts, your body hurts. And the way I look at this city is that anybody, if there's anybody in any quadrant, doesn't matter, if they're hurting, then the city hurts.
And so kind of that same approach to not just hurting, but wellness.
Right.
And so like you were talking about the historical zoning. And I want to, I hope that when we're moving forward in the motion, is the motion NCH, that we are looking to move as a whole. It's the different sects or sections sometimes cause division of thought. When we need to move, we need to have a foundation of how we move forward. When I've been talking to some of my counterparts, both city council and as city administrator, when you have so much division within the community, people want one thing over here, another thing over there. Yeah. And you have to, like you said, plan for your city 50 years, 100 years out. You have to plan for a city that you may not live in, your kids may not live in. We are standing in somebody's plans right now, or lack thereof. So, and it's probably before all of our time. So I don't say that in a criticizing way. I'm saying that in a way that I hope the continuity can come together with what we need to move forward as a city. We have to look at trends. We have to look at things that identify what makes us be able to move forward. One of the things that I know for North College Hill is going to be paramount is identifying some of these historical sites that we have. Like, for example, this is a personal example, but it is true. My house is 100 years old. Mm-hmm. There are things that you can do when you have houses that are 100 years old in your community, and you need to make sure that you leverage those things.
I know a good architect that does that. No. Only kidding.
We've got about a minute left.
Okay, let me say. Chuck and I went to LaSalle High School together. We first graduating class, okay? There was a brother Camillus, who was our principal. And I don't know if you remember what he told us.
I'm a St. X mom, by the way.
Oh, God. Well, okay. He told us what always stuck with me. It said that you guys are the first ones, us. We literally built the school. I mean, when I say literally, we built it. But he says, what you are is what LaSalle will be. That was pretty heavy, especially when kids are sort of 8th grade or something. So yes, we need to be careful. Go ahead and answer, and then we're done.
One of the other things that's really important in our model of what we're trying to do is not have citizens just identify what somebody at the city needs to do. We're trying to help citizens talk about what they can do for the city. So we're trying to build it from the bottom up. Now, there's no identity yet that we're clearly going to build separate neighborhoods, and it can be, if that's what people want. It makes some sense, and there's some way of being closer to people as they live, and there's a lot of things to be said for that. But there's no given architecture about it. But what is really fundamental to this is we're trying to talk to people about, let's take responsibility for what we can do to make this a better place.
So I just wanted to point out that another example, going back to the comprehensive plan, on pages 78 and 79, they talk about the value of neighborhood associations. And I will say, even what Motion is doing is so organic. It's in line with this, but this plan did not direct the growth of it. So I want to let you know, again, the stick figure, the base idea of what this is. Second example is page 74, as far as implementation. They even recommended. I just found out because of a phone call. I'm like, what does the county do? It was already in here about using the model zoning code. It's a recommendation. So again, and that's on page 74. So there are places where things are already in action. So again, I just brought those up to drive home the point that this is just a recommendation, right? A base to start. So I wanted to ask, if I may, what do you, my understanding after going to one of the committee meetings, that one committee was assigned, I guess, approval or any, I guess, legislation that pertains to approving the comprehensive plan. I'm not sure what your process looks like, so my question is, what do you think your steps are to approve this plan as council or as a committee? I'm just unclear.
It's my committee. Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
so what, it was kind of along the lines of what Ms. Alexander kind of stated. It's a lot to kind of process the comprehensive plan. So what we had kind of potentially talked about was kind of forming a subcommittee, you know, we love those, and trying to figure out like what we can do first, like taking it in pieces and going, you know, kind of going in that direction. So taking these recommendations and taking the plan in bits and pieces to see kind of what we need to do first, or, you know, and how we can kind of do that. That was kind of what we talked about, but we didn't, you know, that's kind of as far as we got with that.
I guess my question, if I may, I didn't want to cut you off. So my brain, I assume certain things. I don't know what you mean by break it down in pieces, but because we've had these discussions a few times now, I want to make sure the folks understand breaking it down in pieces. I'm not really sure and I'm not telling you how to do this, but that it's that detailed and that it would require that. Because in general, it's just me, if I was reading it and I was on council, I'd be like, sounds great, sounds horrible, but we don't have to do it. So to me, it's like, just read it, get through it. There really aren't changes to it because no priorities have been identified in it. So it's just approving a high-level skeleton, stick figure is all it is, and not breaking it down. And again, I don't get any kickbacks for getting it approved. Again, I shared with you the importance of getting this approved. So again, my question would be, I thought this meeting tonight would be, can you decide, is that something you can do? How you will break it down or not break it down? How will council proceed with approving the comprehensive plan?
I think what the plan would be to have that subcommittee kind of come back and summarize for the rest of us, you know, how we should proceed with this. If it's just a blanket approval, or if it's like okay, let's focus on, you know, we start with zoning, or we start with whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I want a committee to like go through like line by line, page by page, and, you know, I don't know what that looks like. I just know that it's going to be time extensive, and, you know, I think that that's important.
And, okay. Yes, please.
Trying to be, I understand what, you know, okay, there are a lot of pieces. But again, I just want to repeat what was said. You're not approving pieces. You're approving the overall. That's all we're asking, because there's a lot of pieces. Once that is approved overall, then we go back and say, okay, what about this piece? What about that piece? What about that piece? The important thing is, are you or are you not going to adopt it? And I understand the time, and when that's one of the final questions is, if that's what kind of time? Do you have a set time? Do you think, is it going to take 2 months, going to take 2 weeks, going to take a year, what? To just approve that master plan. Not each piece of it, but just say, okay, we got a plan, we're going to accept this, we paid for it, here we are, we got it, let's go. Now we'll start dissecting it. It's like kind of like the old, you know, zoology class, with the little frog and all that. That's what we do. But how long is it going to take? And I'm just asking for a date. Are you talking, whatever. And
Mr.
offering,
President, I'm sorry.
that the planning commission, because we were hoping to kind of help you along with that process tonight. The planning commission will be more than happy to meet anytime you all want to get together and ask and work on it together. Man, that's why we're here. But, and I'm not scolding anybody, the date on that thing is July. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, well,
Okay.
what I'll say to that is I want to make sure that every person sitting at this table kind of understands exactly what we're approving, if I can say it like that, and if
Yeah,
that
sure.
means working with you guys, that's fine. I just want to make sure everybody understands,
Okay.
like, okay, we approve it, and then when you come back and say, okay, well, now let's work on this part of it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anyone to feel like, wait a minute, I didn't know about that part of it. I want to make sure that there is a good understanding and a good comprehension of what's included, what we're approving, what's in the plan.
And if somehow you don't know that after our presentation night, then maybe we didn't do our job well enough tonight. I'm just saying, because I would hope that we're talking about a general adoption of the master plan and then go from there. And if it isn't, that's fine. Again, we are recommending. Like I said, you guys make the rules, you guys make the decisions.
Mr.
But
President.
it's been July. Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Chichester?
I'm just saying to the chair, I thought we were going to do another meeting to have more of expanded elaboration instead of running through the bullet points. That's what I thought.
That was what we discussed in our council meeting, that we would allow an hour tonight, which we have started to go over our time. And if need be, we would schedule another one. So, Ms. Brooks, I'll ask that you just close us out here with whatever you're getting ready to say, and then we'll need to adjourn so
I
we
think
can
you
move to
were-
our next meeting.
Sorry, thank you. I think you were just alluding to it. As far as, I just wanted to clarify what to expect, and it sounds like council will decide if another meeting with planning commission to go through certain point. Okay.
That is part of it. I'm also I'll have a discussion with Ms. Underwood, just to make sure that we do understand and that we're thinking about what needs to happen moving forward with the committee process, so.
Great, thanks.
All right, we need a motion to adjourn so that the next meeting can commence.
Mr.
Mr.
President,
President.
Mr. Wilson,
I'd like to make the motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester.
I second his motion.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Wilson, second by Ms. Chichester. Any discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Chichester,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned.
Ms. Anderson, you want to go ahead and start with the Hinkle for me? Please.
Oh, no. I just have a summary for you tonight.
Thank you.
So currently, the 2024 Hinkle report is in its final stages. It is currently being the financial reports are currently being created. I'm looking to get them sent to me tomorrow morning, and then they will be prepared and ready for filing on the auditor's website. So we're in the final stages.
Okay. And we'll be complete with that, what date?
I'm
was that?
thinking this week.
This week.
Tomorrow, I'm supposed to be getting a report, financial report.
I just want to have, if.
Go ahead,
Ma-
Ms. Dustin.
Madam Chair, I had spoke to the two things that we were kind of hinging upon, and that was the BWC from the fire department. We were able to get that letter from Chief Blackie today. That was the grant that the fire department received in the amount of $40,000. There was some paperwork lag, and we submitted it on our part, but there were a paperwork lag, and they had sent us an invoice basically saying we owe the money back. But we got the confirmation letter from Chief Blackie today that acknowledgeably we do not owe the money back. It just was, I don't know, these systems, all I can tell you is government software is definitely behind the times and slow, so. But we've got it all taken care of.
And we don't owe them.
We do not owe them. We never did. We had done everything we needed to do. Chief Blackie had done everything he needed to do. It's just that I wanted to have something in hand because we
Right.
cannot properly file a Hinkle because the Hinkle tells what we owe and grants that are still out there, how we spent. So we just needed to make sure that we had that.
Awesome. Alrighty, next agenda item is the month-end close for December.
Okay, so for the month of December, both the bank and the finance software reported $8,480,069.93. There are still some outstanding checks, but there are no outstanding deposits or outstanding expenses. We did balance, completely reconciled for the month of December, which also closes out simultaneously. I did want to also bring to your attention the reason why the payroll account shows a zero balance, and it will always show a zero balance, is because I changed it to a zero balance account. For auditing purposes, the auditors do like to see the payroll account at a zero balance at all times. So what happens is, at the end of the night, if there is a deposit, it sweeps over into the main general fund account. Likewise, if there's a payment, it sweeps over and then it gets paid there too. So there's always a zero balance in that account. Auditors, they look at that. So there will never be anything in that account. But I do have your relief fund bank account balance together with your general fund bank account balance. So we did end the month balanced at the bank and both in the software. Now for the end of the year, so for 2024, total receipts from January through to the end of December was $19,180,077.27. Total expenses was $10,050,689.92. That's 10050689.92. For a balance over receipts of $9,129,387.35. So that was after all receipts were in and all expenses were paid, we were over 1.9 million.
So that's our carryover
Yes.
from 2024 to 2025.
Correct.
And so when you're looking at the documents that we send out or that Ms. Anderson sends out, I'm asking her to do three things. She's showing you the bank statements, and I'm only redacting what those like the check, the personal information, because that's actually on the bank account. So you guys get a real live what the bank statement is from month to month. It is there. And then from there, you also get the finance software itemization of what we are entering. One is a hand key entry of our incoming and outgoing money and how it balances that month. That's from the finance software. That's that blue and white paper that you see. This time you actually got the year, because when you balance December, you balance for the entire 2024. And then she is, Ms. Anderson, going in, if there is any discrepancies between what the bank has and what the finance software, she's explaining on that Excel spreadsheet that you receive, why there is a difference, if there is a difference, or if it's balanced. So that is what we're trying to provide on a regular basis, on a monthly. That's what the monthly reports are going to look like from 2025. So to be clear, this is December's reconciliation, which is all of 2024. So I'm using this time also to say, hey, you guys get to decipher what it is that you want to see to help you feel confident that the budget is running like it should. So this is what we did for December, the month I was here, and now we're in December. We took care of November, no, October, right?
And November.
Oh, that's right. We did them together. Sorry, brain freeze. So now we're doing December and February because we decided to do the 2-month lag. And the reason we're doing the 2-month lag is because it gives Ms. Anderson and the finance team the opportunity to clearly clear out the books so that you should not see any discrepancy in the balance. So when you look at the bank statement and when you look at finance authority, they should line up. And if they don't, we will be offering an explanation as to why with documentation.
It's called an adjustment, and so that's what you will see. The reason why the bank account is not lined up with the software. There is an adjustment that can be made, but there should always be an explanation for an adjustment.
And so speak now if there's something more that you want to see in the monthly reports, because this is what we're planning to give month by month, starting with next time we meet would be March. We will be delivering January. And so she and I have talked extensively about what it is that you will need to be able to clearly see what we have, what has been spent, and how that's reconciled. And if you decide that it needs to change past to this month, that's fine. But I'm just kind of explaining what you're looking at so that you can kind of continue to decipher whether or not this is what you feel like you need to see.
Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about what's being provided or what we're?
I don't have a question about what's being provided, but I wrote a note. You had mentioned, Ms. Anderson, that there were outstanding checks. What does that mean?
So what that means is that there are checks that are written, but they haven't cleared the bank. So I could write you a check, but you haven't taken it to the bank.
Yeah.
That's an
Makes sense.
outstanding check.
Got it. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to see anything different in this report or anything added? Or you guys? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Underwood.
I just need an opportunity to process kind of what was sent to me. So can I just get back to you guys about that?
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Zork.
I'd like to know, are the ARPA funds somewhere in that document?
What document?
Any of the reports that you sent us, because I didn't see it, so that's why I'm asking.
You didn't see the report, or you didn't see the ARPA?
ARPA.
So ARPA funds was actually, if you're asking me if ARPA funds was receipted in the months that I've given you, no. ARPA funds was receipted a long time ago. So it's included in our balance, but you're not going to see it in this report. Do you know what I mean? I believe we received ARPA funds in 22 or 23.
Okay, but I guess where I'm going is, so we did some emergency ordinance talking about ARPA funds. Because there was still money that had to be used.
You're talking about an encumbrance.
Right?
ARPA funds were encumbered. It wasn't expensed.
But
She's asking if they're built in the balance. Yes, they are.
okay, so that confuses me even more then, because the ARPA funds, and I'm using my memory, I feel like it was more than 1.9 million.
No,
One
ARPA
point-
funds were never more than 1.9 million.
So
Okay, it was
They are
800
one
It was
point-
about 880, sorry. I'm, again, using my memory. It was about 880. So really, our carryover was 800-ish. That we can
8
use.
million-ish.
8 million.
Our carryover was close to 9 point,
So 1.9 million.
huh?
0.9 million.
You said 1.9 million.
What's the carryover?
I didn't say 1.9 million.
Somebody said 1.9
Yeah, she said
million.
She
1.9 was
she
the.
said our ending balance was nine. I
Balance.
watched her say it. She said $9,129,000, $387.35.
And the carryover was
About the carryover is what we're talking about.
No, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Our carryover was $9,129,387.35.
Absolutely not what was
That's
said.
not what she said.
She must have mixed the number. She must have mixed the numbers up.
What carryover are you referring to? Because tonight, I said 9 million.
When you were
I
giving.
can tell you, no one up here got,
I wrote it
I
down.
did-
too.
I guess I understood.
Did you
what
think I
she
said
said,
9 when 1 million when I said 9?
1.9.
but You
It
said
was 1.9.
1.9.
Oh, well, then
Okay,
maybe
well,
that's
But I think I
narrow.
understood what you were saying.
But it's not 1.9.
Not
It's
one-
9 million. If you look at the sheet that
It's
what
the
she
last
said was, and I'm not trying to take this from you. I just want to repeat this because this is
Go
what I
ahead.
was sitting next to her and I was also looking over her shoulder. So maybe it was my eyes and not my ears listening. But the receipts, the year-to-date receipts were 19,000.
19 million.
I'm sorry. I apologize. $19,180,077.27.
Got that.
Okay. Our total year-to-date expenses were $10,050,008. Is that 8 or 6?
680.
I'm sorry, 689.92. Okay, leaving us a carryover balance of 9,129,387.35.
Thank you.
And the ARPA funds are built in that amount. So if you, Ms. Zorb was trying to extract them out, if you were to extract them, we're at like the 8 million mark, a little more than 8 million.
Everybody clear?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Y'all clear? Typing, but are we clear to move on? I was like, all right, so. All right, thank you, Ms. Anderson, for the report. So we're going to move on to the resolution that is on the agenda. If everybody is okay to move on? All right.
Did we have, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
do we have the resolution? Or we just have the idea of the resolution?
We
We
have,
have concepts of a plan.
are you talking about the
That was a
Iron
small
Mountain one?
dig for nobody in this
It
room.
was an email, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it is printed. The Iron Mountain one?
Not the Iron Mountain one. This one is the Recreation Director to prepare and submit an application for an urban forestry grant through the State of Ohio Department of Natural Resources and declaring an emergency. We're supposed to discuss this today so that we can, did she?
Did you print it?
She didn't, I didn't get the resolution, did I? Hold on.
That's why I was just emailing you.
I sent the Iron Mountain ones, apologies for the resolution, but I probably did not send the
I can
forestry.
go get, if you send a resolution, I can print it quickly.
Did you have
sorry, this was added to the agenda literally right before his send.
It won't let me open that file either.
No.
Y'all can't open up can you guys open up the Iron Mountain web?
First one. Iron Mountain,
Mine
yes.
came up an error, but then it finally let me in,
Okay, mine wouldn't.
in the background, yeah.
Mm.
Like error it out, and then
Mine ain't popping up.
It's a computer, it's the document.
So the first PDF I cannot open, it blocks
Got
me.
that one.
The second one I
Blocked
can.
That Ice Mountain.
Yeah, Iron Mountain.
It's a mountain.
Now, the Iron Mountain one,
Got that. That popped up.
you guys want the one from Miss Clear, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, I will admit, I said the Iron Mountain's 27 pages long. I said you
I
guys
didn't.
can look at it and share, because that is a lot of paper.
Is it safe to presume that the document that won't open is the actual legislation?
It is the piece of legislation is for you all to look over.
But that's what we can't open.
Okay. I can go print that one for
It
you.
might be
It won't come up.
It's like the PDF issue, it's just
Yeah.
not reading.
it might be like a security safeguard to it.
Oh, it's just ain't coming open.
It just says can't open the file.
Yeah, that's all it says. Keep asking me
mine
to
came
refresh.
I remember I had
open on my
an
phone. The
issue.
The first one wouldn't open, but the second one opened for me.
Yeah,
It opened on my phone, but it didn't open on my laptop, so that could be, yeah.
Iron Mountain, I got open. That opened up easily.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that.
Might,
I got the Iron Mountain open. It's, I'm assuming the resolution that was supposed to be here ain't open. Yeah. Can't open file.
oh, Bill, there's,
Manchester, what you be sending out?
the resolution for the, I think she went to get it, cause I can't print.
So it's cryptic.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. It's encrypted. I can't. Sorry, I must not have had permission to share it. Didn't realize that. So, I have a copy. You guys want to take it's 27 pages. So let me try to,
Iron
or
Mountain one that
the
you
Iron
can't
Mountain one.
open.
Or might be 60 pages.
The one that you can't open is the one with all of the
Yeah, we don't need that one.
I believe Mr. Hedger, like, he already vetted that part, right?
Yeah, we just have to approve it.
Yeah, we just needed to
We don't
approve
need
it.
anything
And
else
it's
from
kind
that
of
one.
like the comprehensive
Yeah,
plan.
this is for-
Somebody else is
yeah.
going to do it.
I'm sorry, when did you send it?
Like 7:30.
Yeah.
Oh, today. Okay.
Yeah. I sent it out as soon as the meeting ended because
Yeah, but
we were all in that other one.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
correct, Ms. Zor, and then Mr. Hedger already go through this?
Yes.
So,
This is the one we're working on is the digitalized one. So yes, that one,
but
the Iron Mountain, the next one, but we're-
he already researched the digitized too, right?
right, but we're looking at the recreation resolution right now too.
Correct.
Before,
urban-
that
From
one's
Clear.
before.
That's
The one with Miss Clear.
urban forestry.
Mm-hmm. I hope you guys can open this one.
That's what,
Yeah, we can
I mean,
open the Iron Mountain
let's
one.
do
That's what I
one.
was typing away at.
The
Like, I
Iron
can't-
Mountain contract. We can't
Yes.
open either piece of legislation.
I'm gonna try it again, you guys. Oh, she got copies. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Iron Mountain, all I have is the contract. I don't have the legislation for that one.
Bill hasn't sent it back yet.
Okay.
Okay. I thought it was all in one email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.
Version control.
Let's read it again. A resolution authorizing the Recreation Director to prepare and submit an application for an urban forestry grant through the State of Ohio of Natural Resources and declaring an emergency. So we just need to review it and approve if we want to put it on for the next council meeting to vote on it. Ms. Duxteen,
Yes.
do you want to elaborate a little more on this for this?
It's something that we do annually. It just is, again, this is just something we need to do again for her. She's just trying to make sure that we get ahead of the legislative process because, you know, it takes us 3 readings if you guys don't suspend the readings, which is not necessary on this particular piece of legislation. So she's kind of getting it out there early. One, so that you all have the opportunity to review it. And like I said, it's an annual renewal.
Mrs. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Dukestein, is this used strictly for parks or the islands, or what is this grant? Just
I think
curious
she
what
sent the support to you all. My computer's dead, that's why. Can I see that?
Sure.
Oh, this is trees. So it's the fruit trees.
The
She
pawpaw
want-
plants?
That
Not
and they want to expand past pawpaw.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Mayor, Madam Mayor.
I believe that they're trying to eventually do like a community garden and have like exactly what it says, a forestry. So like I know there's been talk looking for an area where we can have our own like vineyard or something along those lines. That's just some of the things that have been shared with me.
And then also she talked about like there's a peach tree. We have a person that has like a 50-year-old peach tree right off from the Center from the Blind, and he may be working with us to get some more trees kind of seeding off from his trees, some lemon trees. It's really, they haven't necessarily found the location for it, but these are the resources and the things that were going to be needed to support that kind of expansion in North College Hill in terms of our urban forestry.
And we've done this in the past, the same
We
thing, or is this new?
We have done. Yeah, we passed it last year. We have, but each year it kind of has a different purpose. This year is focused on the fruit trees and the edible landscape is what they're calling it.
Ms. Duxine, and this is just for her to apply, give her permission to apply for the grant, correct?
No, this is the actual, it says desires financial assistance under the urban forestry grant program. So we're basically, we are renewing the money.
Okay.
And then this is what this is the direction that we're going into this year. The edible landscape is the new part of the legislation, but it's a repeated piece of grant, a repeated grant, but for this year, our focus will be on edible landscape. And I think she's working with the tree board, which it says here, to kind of identify what trees. I know Ms. Clear and I talked about the pawpaw trees and some of the parks because the pawpaw trees have a loud fragrance. I don't know if you've smelled them. Some people think that it's pleasant, some people don't. So we're just, what Ms. Clear would be doing is working with these dollars and working with our tree board to pick the right kind of trees for this area, to make sure that they're sustainable and healthy and able to endure the winters, and then also have kind of not like this food desert that we have in this area, to kind of introduce and create that for our community. So we have sustainability in terms of air quality, and then also edible fruits and things like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
So that piece of legislation has made it over to Dieter's, and is his. So if you guys are okay with it, then it'll move to council floor. I would say that both the Iron Mountain one and that one is a quote that supports what the legislation will say. That is the legislation that will pass in order to give the authority to spend the money in that way, designated on that legislation.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Orr.
I would have no objection to sending either piece to the council floor. I don't know if anybody else does.
Well, let's do it one at a time. That way we can, so I know you're saying we have both, but we still have to print it out for the audience and discuss it so they can see it too as well.
The audience, I printed out the copies for the audience.
Did you get the Iron Mountain legislation too?
Yeah, I printed it out.
Oh, because you only handed me that one, so I didn't know if you
I
printed.
didn't print out it for you all because you all should have gotten it
Right, okay.
electronically, and it's 27 pages, but I did do 3 copies for the audience.
So, okay,
And
they
that-
got the legislation for the, okay.
Yeah.
Then we're good. I'm good if you guys are good on both.
So there's only one thing that I wanted to say as it related to Iron Mountain. It's in addition to, so you all had asked for well, you all need, let me say that, you all need a shared space. No, I'm getting my thoughts together. I knew when I was back there, I was like, oh, I meant to tell them that. Miss Underwood asked me to follow up on making sure that you all had a shared drive to put your council agendas and minutes on. And I had looked into that, and the reason why that's connected to the Iron Mountain piece is because it actually doesn't include that, but it could. But we can supply, as a city, a shared space for you all. Mm-hmm. The issue would be, in addition to that, would be you have to pay for your VPN. Because in order to be on a shared space, you have to have a VPN access. And that would be an additional cost. It's probably small. I can bring it back to you, but it's going to be all relative to getting your documents digitalized and easily accessible, so we don't have any issues behind. We have put all the issues behind us of being able to quickly retrieve documents. They're all uploaded in either a shared space or retrieved in this thing that Mr. Hedger's trying to make sure that you all have for the records that he keeps. So I just wanted to kind of add that in there. I'm not adding it with Iron Mountain, but it came up as a result of you all searching to get your records digitized, and Miss Underwood asking that you all be able to put your minutes and agendas in a shared space. So you would just have to provide out of your council budget for the VPN to be able to access it. And the other thing is, I think I sent out an email kind of earmarking this. So if you want it on your own computer, for those of you that use your own computers, you would have to make an appointment with Tom, our IT person, in order to get that installed. If not, then you would have to use a city-issued device in order to be able to access that. So I want you guys to kind of think about that as you're going forward, because you're either saying, I have a computer that I don't mind putting city information on, which leaves you open to having that device confiscated if there was ever a litigation attached to the information on it. Or it could mean that you everyone goes back to city issued devices, and then you don't actually have to pay for the VPN, but we're expensing out on city issued devices. So just food for thought as you're thinking about the Iron Mountain digitalization of documentation.
I think Mrs. Orr was first, but I did want to have a follow-up question to her VPN, if you didn't mind me.
So as an alternative solution, on the city-owned devices, we have Microsoft Teams. We could share documents on Microsoft Teams. They could be a repository there.
Yeah, I was going to Say
But-
we could use that channel.
You can, but in order to do Microsoft Teams, we tried, he sent the link out, and I tried to open it on a different computer. It would not open without the VPN.
Right, because it's
So
protected.
he tested it with me. So she is right. We could also do a shared under Outlook with Microsoft Teams. However, because you are outside of the network with your Teams and not on a city device, that part of Teams is protected by the VPN.
So,
Because somebody can easily get in and access other shared documents in that space. Because once you have Teams, it's an organizational Teams.
so that was going to
So
be
who
my
doesn't
question.
have a city laptop? I guess we could start there.
Well, I use a flash drive, so anytime I have documents, I download it to a flash drive. I don't use the city computer.
You don't either?
But I will.
That's what I was going to say. Would it be easier as a council, as a city, for us to use the city laptops, so that way everything is encrypted and everything is protected, and we do have the Microsoft Teams, and we could have a share drive, like a G drive or something like that, where we can access it on that? Would that be an easier solution than downloading the VPNs?
Personally, I think so. Technology, I think Ms. Zorp would agree that it's just a cost. I mean, because the devices, we need to get you new issue devices. So you have to consider the cost. And I can look into the cost if that's the direction you want to go in. Well, I'll send some suggestions to Christian, and you all can go from there.
So whatever the most efficient and cost-effective solution, I think, is the best course of action. So if we can look more into that.
But the continuity of the digitized space is kind of why I brought it up here. I know I do understand that it's a different topic. It goes off into something else. But I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware.
So we can approve this legislation without having that.
Yeah, you don't need that
It's
piece
not
of
tied
it. This
together.
piece of, no, it's not.
Okay.
Not specifically, no.
Okay.
And whatever, the good thing is, whatever shared space and the digitized documents that Christian Hedger is purchasing, as he uploads them, you will easily be able to connect to the VPN and get to through whatever, if your own device or their, the city provided device. So you kind of need to think about them together, but they are separate issues.
Right. So we can approve him going ahead and,
Yes.
with the contract.
It's a
of doing
good
that.
contract. It's a good amount. They did not go up. There was a delay in it pushing through. I think probably almost last year in April or May.
Oh,
He
wow.
got that quote, and reaching out again, the quote did not go up. It's the same.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's an expensive feat. It's like what, $11,000. But it's needed.
Any other thoughts from council on? Yes,
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Underwood.
So I have a question with regard, because I don't have a city device, and I would not want to expose my work computer to subpoenas and public records requests, that kind of thing. So how, as far as getting a city device, what do we need to do to do that?
So in order to I would have to kind of help direct. First of all, you got to decide how much money you want to spend. I can point Christian in the right direction to get an example of devices, and then he can, I guess, finish the research. I get gray with that because I don't mind, but I don't want to take on something that is not the task for me. So,
Okay, so I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought there was like 7 computers sitting somewhere for the 7 council members.
Yeah, I was offered one.
They were all bought. Everybody got
so here's the issue. I think I can look, but I could tell you those devices were bought in like 2020.
So they're probably a little outdated, is that what we're
Very.
thinking?
That's what we're using now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
mine is
have
outdated.
the,
How did it want
Yeah.
yeah, and it works great.
It does. It works fine. I have never used one, so that's fine. First of all, I guess that I'll take that on. I will locate where the other devices are. You got something?
Madam Mayor?
No,
You got the
I
mic.
was, but they all said it was working fine. I think initially they asked for was it the Microsoft? Ms. Zorb, help me out. Was it a note? What was it that you guys asked for?
Office
One of
suites.
these.
What's
We-
that?
We asked for
I don't know what
something
it's called.
different. We got
Is that a
these.
Surface?
Yes.
Surface. It was a Surface. Yes,
Get what you
I know
get,
that
you don't throw a
sounds
fit.
it was a Surface.
So some of us have Surface Pros and some of us have the
Outdated.
ones.
Okay.
Fisher
What
Price.
is that? The Surface Pro was not purchased by the city.
It was
though.
not.
Oh,
This
okay.
is
So
a-
that's your personal.
I will say
Lenovo.
this:
A
we could
who?
do a
I
Surface.
don't know.
We could
Lenovo?
Okay.
Lenovo.
Villavizio. Is that what you have?
No.
No,
What'd you say?
it's called a Lenovo.
Lenovo. Is
even
the
know what I got.
manufacturer. I've never heard of it, but.
I see.
I've heard of
I
it.
mean, it's okay. I don't like the way it
There you go.
looks, but
For my kids.
all I do is city council stuff.
Right.
So what I'll first do for you all
We don't
at the
do
next
much on
city,
that.
the next budget and finance meeting is like in 2 weeks. I will locate the devices, figure out what shape they're in, get with Tom, filter them through, and even see if it's feasible or if we have enough where they were. I will tell you that some things got lost from the old building to this one. We may or may not have those devices. So if we are challenged with, I can only give you a recommendation. But if you're challenged with getting a device, I would suggest that you all get the same device. And I do think that those can be reasonable. I have personally purchased one for like $450.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Madam Mayor.
who all has one of the devices? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Brandon has one.
5.
Yeah, one.
Mr. Davis?
Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Davis, do you have a city laptop or a personal?
Okay, so 5. That's
So-
only 2.
So it's
Madam
only
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Wilson.
And that's another thing. That's what we're getting to.
Oof.
So that just leaves 2 people.
I was just trying to not spend the money if we didn't have to.
Oh.
If I-
And that's fine. If we have
Madam-
2 more devices, that's fine. We'll
Madam
make
Chair.
sure that those devices are uniformed for each of you, and the VPN will be very easy to put on, and you can just use that device.
Okay.
I didn't know how well they worked or not, and they're old, so.
Okay.
But if they're working, then perfect.
Mr. Wilson.
Oh, I'm just saying that they're working by the Heritage Chin Chin Chin. Because my mouse hardly, I don't even carry it because it don't work. Like the center unit, in order to slide the screen up, it don't, like I got, my mouse is just garbage. It just don't work. I don't carry it.
So there should be one for Mr. Graver if he doesn't want one because he has to rarely, he wouldn't be accessing any of that. We can swap yours out for a better working one, but I'll look and see what we have, how functional the ones that we have are, or if we even have them, and then go from there. Then I can give you a report back on that issue at our next meeting, at your next meeting, if that's
Okay.
okay.
You got that in the notes, Ms. Silver.
And then you can also think about if you want to
So
get
next meeting,
different
she said
devices.
she's gonna have a report on getting the condition of the
Do is
devices.
email and take notes on it. Just basic.
that's. Okay, so to recap, Ms. Dukestein, you're gonna relocate the old devices, see what condition they're in, and Mr. Wilson will need an updated device to swap out, so. And will you have Mr. Hedger in case we need to give us quotes for new devices if we
Now,
have
I
to?
will tell you this, Mr. Hedger should have a city-issued device because he deals with so many documents. And he's going to be the one uploading it. He's probably going to be the one monitoring and caring for the shared drive that you have. You all are going to be uploading stuff. He's going to be putting this stuff, digitizing the things. He, to me, needs a city-issued
He
device.
needs a new, okay. Ms. Zoyer, you put that on the notes too for me as well.
I will, but I think he should make that call of what he wants to work with.
But he does, at this, I understand why in the past we would have wanted to allow him to make that call, but the thing is, if he ever has whatever device he's using asked for in a law, he needs, well, yeah, I guess it is his choice, but if he's, willing to give up that device, that's on him, but he would definitely have to, if
We
ever
would consult him. We wouldn't make him.
Yeah.
But if we're in the process of getting quotes and upgrading, then we could look at that. All righty. Well, that covers resolutions 3 and 4. And we have 2 minutes left. So does anybody have any old business? No old business?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Stewart?
So I was hoping to kind of review the cleanup ordinance from last year, but it's way longer than what we have time for today.
Okay.
I just had,
So you want to, well, I could put it on the agenda. What are we reviewing on the cleanup ordinance?
well, I just had some questions about, actually, it was around the ARPA funds and the cleanup ordinance. I guess trying to understand why we needed to add, I think it was like $220,000 to Public Works for salaries. I didn't really understand that. And I believe we added money to the fire department for salaries. I didn't understand why we had to do that. There was just a couple things that we ran out of time last year, so I mean, it's over and done with, I guess, from a certain perspective, but I just wanted to better understand.
Any clarifying questions?
Yes.
So let's do this. Any clarified questions, like how we did that one meeting where we all sent the questions, and then we'll have Ms. Anderson answer and present at the next meeting?
Ms. Chichester,
Yes, Ms. Dukesney.
I will, if you don't mind, some of those questions are super short. We can shorten the list, not saying that you don't want to do that, but the Public Works ARPA funds were designated based on, if you remember, we went through a contract renewal for Public Works, and we needed to support some of their raises. So we went retrospectively, we went back on them, and then we went forward. So they didn't get, fire department got ARPA funds that were required to be used for payroll. Police department got ARPA funds. They did not get ARPA funds, but we were up. Their contract, their bargaining agreement was up for renewal. So we used some of those ARPA funds to support their raise. And on a continuum, we have another kind of income source to make sure that they have that support forward. So we needed to use ARPA funds as a city. And so we decided to take some of the ARPA funds that we were awarded as a city, because you can save general dollars out of the general fund. You can save that money.
Right.
You can create more and more carryover. You have to use the ARPA funds. So instead of taking that money out of the general fund, we used ARPA funds to support that raise so that we could not have any pressure to use general fund money and then satisfy having to use the ARPA fund monies by a certain date.
Okay.
So one of the things that we use to apply those resources to the ARPA funds is the Public Works raise. It was a way to absorb the ARPA funds and save our general fund.
so you're saying the Public Works raises is a $210,000 hit to the budget every year?
I'm saying that based on the raise that they got and the raise that they will get in the renewal of the contract, there are 5 of them. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So, I mean, that's across multiple people and retro pay. Yeah, that makes sense.
We had some buyouts, we had one person, we had to retire.
We had retirees.
Yeah.
So it's not just raises.
That's also retro pay. That you got to pay into we have our portion that we pay into their retirement. Yeah, that's all considered pay. And then there was another question about that I felt like I could answer, but at this point I need you to repeat it.
I just had that question about the ARPA funds and the 200.
I think Ms. Zorb did, but she had another question that she had asked. Oh, the cleanup ordinance.
Yes.
Specifically.
We are over time. Can we hold that?
Yeah.
Well, we started at 7:45 exactly. So,
Right,
Yeah.
but we're scheduled till 8:30.
okay. Council, do you guys want to move on to new business or adjourn now? And we can table it for next.
It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's your committee.
I don't have no new business.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a dictator. I just want to make sure everybody's voice is heard.
Your committee.
Okay.
Are you moving to new business?
Yes,
Okay.
Ms. Zorb. So if we still have any questions on the old business, let's do what I suggested. Thank you. Thank you, dear. New business.
I have some new business.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is kind of old business, but it's new business because we haven't talked about it before, and I'll be super brief. So I think there is kind of some distinction around the fact that the encumberment, if you will remember, the encumberment for 1,500, it wasn't just 1,500, it was 1,500 and splash pad. And so there are a number of projects. We did not designate, I don't want the autonomy for council to still choose lawfully, legislatively, to do whatever you guys are going to do with the building is still there. There might have been some thought that because there was so much money encumbered towards those slash projects, that it was going in one direction. That's not true. We can remediate the asbestos. There are other projects that need to be taken care of. For example, we need to put a dome or a roof or some kind of enclosure to our salt thing back there. That is a requirement. We need to do that so that we can better keep our city's resources. We also need to, by law, put a fire hydrant back there because that gas tank sits back there. So when I was thinking through the projects that needed to be done, that I tried to choose things that the city must get done. So that's why I said splash pad. We have some priorities. We have to remediate the asbestos. No choice, if, ands, or buts about it. Whether you take that building down or not, the asbestos needs to be remediated. Regardless of whether or not you want to spend the money on getting preservation to deal with our salt. The roof is kind of shaky over there. The salt is coming out of it. We need to do something. So in wisdom, coming in on December the 2nd with less than X amount of days to encumber resources that had not been encumbered, I tried to think through anything that had to be required to be done so that we can exhaust those funds so we wouldn't have to give them back. So when you see different amounts here or there, that's why. We still have the autonomy to decide which of those projects we will do and how that money's best spent. But that is the reason why I designated it that way. So It's not that I don't think you all need to know that, but those were my thoughts. I thought we were clear when I explained the encumberment, and I wanted to make sure that we put the splash pad on there just in case there were other things, grants that come through for some of those necessities, that we would have extra money to do on some of the extras. You got to take care of your needs first.
So, Ms. Dustin, what do you need from Budget and Finance
I
Committee
just
to help
wanted to
support
put that
those?
out there.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
There are tarps currently over the south. Yeah.
So do we need to add this to?
At this moment, as I get the final costs for things and we get on a timeline to repairing things, I'm gonna come back.
Okay.
That's what I,
Okay.
Madam Chair, that's what I was going to ask, just so,
I'm not just blanketly spending the
well,
money.
no, I
think that
trust
kind
you.
of,
I know you're going to put the best needs of the city, but just so we just kind of know, like, hey, just just in case a citizen asks us,
no, and I'm fine with that.
I know I trust you with the money. I know that things are needed, but just as a heads up, hey,
I haven't
need
done a
the dome.
thing. I'm just still gathering.
Okay,
the
so you haven't done
research.
it yet.
No,
Okay.
I'm gathering the research to
Gotcha.
be able to give you all the ability to make the best decision with information.
Gotcha.
I personally, I haven't spent a dime.
Gotcha.
Not even on like just people coming out and assessing things. Thus far, I have not spent a dime, not even one penny. Those people have the different spaces in which, now the roof, yes, but that's it.
So do we need to, at next council, make a motion to give you permission to move forward on those projects? Because I'm thinking these are very high safety concerns, and basically for the roof, the dome, the tarp over the salt, we need that salt, Lord.
We need the
So we need to
fire
protect it. And we need that fire hydrant.
first.
Because I'm thinking like that fire hydrant,
Yeah.
we need to get that.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Zorb.
I am searching my memory banks. There's something about that fire hydrant that I'm looking to you because you would have been around when I heard this. There's something about distance from the fire hydrant out front, and it's been measured.
There's not enough almost too much distance, so it could not fulfill the purpose that it is needed for in the back. So there's one in the front, and
I thought there was some
did it have to do with
handshake deal. There's another fire hydrant in the back somewhere that they could go down.
They could
The lines are there.
Right,
But
the
the
lines
fire
are there,
hydrant
but-
itself is not
Right.
right. So we got to make sure that the lines are right, and then we can see how much work we need to get it back on top. The gas.
I'm sorry, go ahead. It was sustainable for the time in which they put the one out there, but you're right. They just ignored the second one for whatever reason. We don't know what those reasons were, but we absolutely need that hydrant back there now. It's not safe.
Yeah, it doesn't sound.
It's
And
not
the-
safe.
And
So
the
you're
other
telling me
thing-
they started to put a second hydrant there and then we didn't follow through? Or we just,
I think
I was really new.
it had, and it was doing with
Wow, that had to be-
location.
Very long.
long time ago.
Yes.
Had to
If
do
you-
with
No, it's-
location as
remember there's a
well,
conversation.
where they would put it and how the lines were run under.
And the other thing is the impound lot, when was built with an extended slab of concrete with the intention that we would come back with the fire hydrant so that the fire department could use that as training. That's a really good thing for our city. We can actually employ other fire departments to use our stuff as training. So you guys got to think ahead and think about what's going to bring us the best utility for that back there. And so while we might be purchasing things out of need, the expansion of what we can do with those things yields our city great benefit.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm sorry.
So-
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There may be a need because of the amount of the fire hydrant
Mm-hmm.
that we will have to come to council
Mm-hmm.
because it exceeds what the dollar amount is.
Okay. So we'll be aware of that when that comes up. Can we make sure that gets on the next council meeting agenda?
When I
So,
get to the
Yeah, I'm about to say.
when I have all the information, that's when I plan to bring it, but it will be coming very soon.
definitely, if it's a safety thing, we definitely want to get it back there. Yes, Mr. Wilson?
I was just gonna say a lot of the stuff she was stating. She was just saying that once she get a lot of the information she just put out. She was just stating once she get all of the collective information we would need in order to make a conscious decision on it, she would get it to us.
Okay. All right. Any other new business?
All right. I'm sorry,
We
Madam
got
Chair.
2 minutes legal.
Yeah, I know. I said I wanted to quit, and then I keep asking questions.
No, go
Um,
ahead.
Just a procedural kind of question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm backing up to the 1,500 and the asbestos and all of that. According to the ARPA requirements, are we allowed to encumber that without having the bids?
Based on the time frame that I came in, there was not adequate time to get quote bids, so we can use the quotes in a proper process, but it just has to be documented the appropriate way.
All righty.
Madam President, I have one question.
Yes,
And
Ms.
I'm sorry.
Gastins.
Mr. Dixon, do we have any quotes?
We do for the
Okay, cool.
asbestos and the 1,500. We do.
Okay, cool.
So what I know that there have been records requests and, well, one records request or email, sorry, but I'm treating it as that. I've been trying to make sure that we get our Cincinnati Enquirer stuff wrapped up. That is primary. We want to stop that litigation, and that's a lot of information. So I'm not delayed or not trying to put off anybody. I will respond to blanket emails. I don't have to necessarily have a record request as long as your request is in reason. But my priorities is going to be based on what we need to do ASAP to keep our city in good standing.
All righty. If there is no more new business,
She didn't pay it.
thank you. Okay. Well, if we have no more new business from council, from committee, all right, meeting's adjourned. And we'll see you guys
8:45.
at 8:45. Thank you.